Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast, live from the Combo Group Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee, for another episode of Office Hours. This is my weekly office hours that I'm holding, where you can come in, ask any questions you have around commercial real estate. We'll hang out for a little bit, talk commercial, or just talk Predators, NHL hockey, talk, the fact that I went to Gainesville yesterday, a little bit of anything. Kind of more casual. Feel free. Sometimes I forget how to speak English. To jump into the comments, let me know what you're up to. Would love to see what kind of deals you've got going on and how I can help. It's been a good week over the past week. We'll dive into that. But first, I have a new toy that I kind of want to play around with. So if you've been following the podcast for a little bit, you may know that I am working on a commercial real estate brokerage course. It is intense. Let me tell you what. I think I've got 60 or 70 lessons in it so far, and that's kind of just getting started. I mean, that's how much really goes into it. And also, now that I've started to put this outline together, really we're at the point where I just need to put the decks together and start recording. But it's kind of crazy to me how much goes into that and how little resources there actually are out there for commercial real estate brokers getting started, or how little resources I had when I was first getting started. Kind of wild. But part of that was me getting this little iPad and being able to actually use it. Hey, Kristen, saying hey from Nodak. What is going on out in Nodak? I got this little iPad to basically use as a whiteboard as we're walking through here. And I had a question from some of my CRE Accelerator students this past week, and I figured this would be a fun thing for us to go through, because I know as you're just getting started, you may be partnering with somebody, and you may be wondering, how do I properly set up the LLC or our partnership? And I'm going to show you how I typically do it. Now, I'm not an attorney, I'm not your attorney, and I'm not pretending to be your attorney. So, of course, go consult your legal counsel when it comes to these kinds of things. But here is how I do it. So in every deal that we set up, we have what's called a property company, right? The PropCo. That is the LLC that you will use to actually own the real estate in. I tend to buy every single property in its own LLC. There are a lot of reasons for that, but it's a lot of liability, obviously. So you'll set up a property company LLC, and then, of course, you'll have your trust and your partner's trust. Now, you could set up an LLC for yourself if you really want, but this is how I set mine up. So then from there, those trusts will actually own shares of the property company, right? So let's say that your trust owns, 70%, and their trust owns 30%, right? So these are just treated like actual partners, right? Your trusts are, except, you own 100% of your trust, and they own 100% of their trust, or controlling shares. Trusts get very complicated with how they're actually set up, and I don't know if you can technically own 100% of a trust, but that is neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. That is how I typically set up my properties as we were going through that. So let me know if there's anything else that you would like for me to diagram live while we are in the office hours. I figured that'd be kind of a fun thing for us to walk through. And, I can show you how I do things, or just run some math. Robinson USMC is saying, great job last night, Tyler. Thank you for the great teaching. Absolutely. Great to see you, man. Appreciate you stepping by. We did our 12 weeks to break into CRE class last night. We're doing that once a week for 12 weeks. It's kind of a boot camp for getting started in commercial real estate brokerage. And last night was my first one to teach. Logan led the last one. So we had a great time. I was in the airport in Jacksonville. Hopefully you guys didn't get too many overhead announcements, and it was pretty good. I had fun teaching it. It's pretty good. Jorge is saying, good morning, Tyler. Blessings and good fortune always. Hope you're getting some rest. Thank you, Jorge. I actually need it after yesterday. You're not going to believe this, but I got up at 3:15 yesterday to catch a 5:05 flight to Atlanta and then to Jacksonville. Drove to Gainesville from there, got back to the airport, had a flight out at 9:20 p.m., I think. Got home by about 10:30 p.m., time change. So it was a long, long day. It was a lot of fun, though. I'll tell you guys about that here in a second. Justin is saying, hey, from Houston. Justin, what's going on, man? Hope all is well down in Houston. Nikki Mack, good to see you in here as well. Good morning. How are you back in Nashville already? Hope you got some sleep. Yeah. Nikki is also in the 12 Weeks to Break Into CRE group. That's a fun group. You guys are, I love how active and engaged everybody is in that group. I mean, that's why Logan and I are doing it, right? Is to just give you guys whatever you need to get into commercial real estate brokerage. Okay, let's talk about, I talked about building the brokerage course a little bit. It's so much more intense. What I'm starting to realize about courses is that they're like books, and they're like tattoos. Honestly, you get into it, you don't realize like, okay, there's actually a lot more pain that I'm gonna have to sit here and go through before this is done. And then also, one thing that I tend to do is, oh, well, we should also add this and we should also add that. And oh my gosh, I could actually further explain this and I could teach this technique too. And that's how we wind up with, 60 or 70 lessons in this commercial real estate brokerage course. In my opinion, they all have to be there. I know that makes it intense as a student going through it, but you got to have it. I want it to be a reference book for you as you are going through commercial real estate brokerage. One, because you've got to know all of that to have the foundation, right? But two, it'll be something that you can always go back and reference and learn more from as you're going through the process. So as you just heard yesterday, I flew out to Gainesville, Florida, to do a story of the deal on one of my CRE Accelerator students. His name is Chris, and what an awesome project he has. He owns a fitness concept 2 doors down from this property that he acquired, which is how he found it, right? He went and talked to his neighbor, and it was an old car wash that had been converted into was 2 buildings. One was kind of just for storage, and one was for the window company that was operating out of there. And he came in and converted it into micro retail suites, and is absolutely crushing it. Such a cool deal. It's wild because the bays, when you get into these car washes, they're basically a standardized size, right? So the bays are pretty much the same size as mine at the wash. So it was really, really, really cool for me to see. Here's what it would have been like if I had gone down the retail path. So that's honestly what I'm most excited for this video coming out. It's like, hey, we did restaurants at the wash, which is probably the most expensive build out you could do. Here's what it would look like if you wanted to take a different option, different route. And Chris did it without any partners. He did it without a massive amount of money out of pocket. Just a phenomenal deal overall. So really excited to share that with you all. And of course, one of my other students, Charlie, who lives, 2 hours away. I thought it was like an hour away. He drove 2 hours to come hang out with us for the day. So Charlie, if you're listening in, cheers, buddy. That must have been a hell of a drive. And Chris also drove me an hour and a half both ways to and from the airport because apparently, I don't know if you guys have ever flown into Gainesville before, but for whatever reason, it's like very cheap to get to Jacksonville, and it is like 3 to 4 times the price to fly into Gainesville. So I ended up flying into Jacksonville. It was a good day. G is saying, good morning, Tyler. You're a busy man. Thanks for all the content. Couldn't be doing commercial real estate without you. Appreciate you, G. G is also in 12 Weeks to Break Into CRE, so appreciate you jumping back in and keeping the learning going. It's exciting to see that you guys are all eager to do this. I love it. I love it a lot. People ask me all the time, like, how do you do this? How do you create as much content as you do? I don't really even look at it that way, to be honest with you, because I just get to go live and talk about commercial real estate. Like, I love everything about commercial real estate. So to me, this is just me hanging out, having conversations. I'd be doing this with friends anyway. So, all right, Josias. Hey, Tyler, I have a roadside lot on an island off the coast of Honduras, and we currently have 4 rental units on it. What do you do to go about a market analysis? That's awesome, Josias. What a cool spot to have some properties. Man, I would say it's going to be tough, right? Because you're in Honduras and you're on an island. I would look at historic sales on that island or at comparable islands, right? Because you're not going to be able to really compare it to the mainland properties because you're cooler. Look, there's pros and cons to being on an island, right? I mean, especially if you're in Honduras. So I've been out to an island in Belize. You kind of have to take boats to get everywhere, which can be a pain. If you have, I had never seen houses being built on an island before. It's the wildest thing ever because they bring in the construction materials on barges. You should look it up sometime. There's got to be videos on YouTube out there about it. It's a really interesting way of going about it. So that's what I would do is I would go and look at, one, comparable sales in the area. Two, I would base it off of the income and just, see what kind of cap rate you think it's probably going to be worth. I would imagine, if they're like Airbnbs, they're on an island in Honduras, you're probably going to be in the 8% to 12% cap rate range. I have to give you a broad stroke on the cap rates there because there are so many variables I just don't know. I wouldn't feel good telling you anything more specific than that. To be fair, it could be 6%. It could also be 15%. But I would feel pretty good that you're in that 8 to 12 range, depending on, really how it's set up, what it looks like. Right? Because at the end of the day, the way to look at cap rates is it's a business multiple, right? People are willing to pay more for less, more hands-off work, right? That's why, when you're going and acquiring a business and it has 100 employees and it's got, $100 million a year in recurring revenue, people are just willing to pay absolutely insane amounts of money for it because they don't really have to do anything. They use the cash, but then you've already got the leadership team there. You've already got the employees making the day-to-day happen. You've already got the product. You've got the sales. So it's kind of the same thing with real estate. So that's kind of how I look at it. Robinson USMC is saying, Tyler, along with the offer to purchase, the earnest check, and agency disclosure, what else do you send the sellers when you make an offer since there is no pre-approval for commercial loans? That's a great question. So you actually can get a pre-approval letter in a sense from a commercial lender. It's more of like a credibility letter, honestly, where the lender will say, hey, we have done business or we are planning to do business or we are looking forward to doing business with this person. They have shown us their financials and we approve them for, this size range that they're looking in, whatever that is. So that helps. I would also say, honestly, in commercial real estate, agency disclosure doesn't matter. I know that's a big thing in residential. Nobody cares, or at least nobody's ever talked about it to me in commercial. So I usually send the offer. If you send the earnest money check with the offer, that's pretty aggressive already. Most people are not doing that. Here's the thing. Like, I think that there is something to be said about getting together in person, shaking hands, and having a conversation. It's way too easy nowadays to just send things off via text or via email or whatever, and it's not very personal. But I will tell you, it's a lot harder to say no to somebody in person after you've gotten to know them and you like them. So I always try and build as much rapport as possible with anybody I'm trying to do a deal with because it just makes things go a little bit smoother. So hope that helps. Jeff is saying, good morning, everyone. Jeff, what's going on, man? Good to see you jumping in here. Adrian, I know a buyer looking in the Southeast for income-producing industrial assets. They're pretty open and looking to deploy about $30 million in assets. Know anything off-market? Man, I wish. I wish. The problem is with that type of commercial real estate investment today, if we find it off-market, we're already selling it because everybody wants to buy that. So it's really tough to find those types of assets. That being said, shoot me an email with your buyer's requirements, and I'd be happy to get in front of the team and see what they can find. It's just office@thecobblegroup.com, and we'll get that passed along. That's a great assignment, by the way, Adrian. That's a good one to be working on. Jorge is saying, Tyler, the firm that I'm working with would like me to start contacting prospective investors. Do you have any videos on how to cold call these prospects? I don't, because I'll be super honest with you. I have never cold called any investor prospects. And that's probably not necessarily a good thing, but I don't think it's also a bad thing, right? I mean, everybody has their own approach as to how they would like to do these types of deals. For me, my investors, I have always networked in person, kissed hands and shaken babies. You know what I mean? So getting out there and just spending time face to face with these potential investors. So I'll tell you, kind of my trajectory. I started off at the Real Estate Investors of Nashville, my local REIA association. Volunteered my time there quite a bit. Became a board member. Really added as much value to that group as I possibly could before I ever raised any capital. So when I did my first capital raise, the majority of my investors came from that group. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say getting a bunch of real estate investors to be your investors in a real estate deal is the greatest idea in the world, because they tend to, people are going to real estate investors groups to learn how to do it for themselves. But we had a great experience. I really enjoyed it. It was a great first deal. The majority of my investors now come from Instagram and YouTube and the podcast. And the website. I mean, we get a bunch of traffic. I think like 25,000, 20,000 a month on the blog. So we get a fair amount of investors that way. I will say, find the first 5 or 10 investors and do a deal with them, and then just promote it. Talk about it all the time. I mean, that's what I did on my first one. I went out and told the story of behind the scenes of doing that entire deal. And by the end of it, I had way more investors that wanted to give me money because they saw exactly how I went through the process. They got to watch it from afar. And so when they decided to reach out, they actually were already sold on investing and working with me. So I didn't really have to do it. So as far as cold calling goes, I don't have a script or anything that I could probably point you in the direction of. I mean, we could come up with a script right now if you guys wanted to. Hey, so-and-so. This is Jorge with 123 LLC. We have a phenomenal track record of raising capital in the Southeast for multifamily apartment complexes, and recently just exited a deal at a 20.3% internal rate of return, 16 months faster than our investors were originally pitched on. Are you open to investing in commercial real estate? I mean, that's just literally off the top of my head. So hopefully that helps. You're welcome to go back and rewatch this and just take that and kind of edit it. So, yeah, there you go. Chase is saying good morning. Good morning, Chase. What's going on, man? Randy Pittman, good morning from Rossville. Good morning, Randy. Good to see you in here, man. Hopefully we'll have some things going on out in Rossville here soon. I don't know what's going on out there. I can't get anybody to to call me back at the city. It's very odd. Well, we'll see. Let's see. Robinson saying, thanks, Tyler. That's very helpful. Absolutely. Cesar, good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Cesar. Good to see you. Good morning, Tyler. I am underwriting for an industrial outdoor storage facility. It will have 55 parking spaces and is 0.7 miles from the interstate. What is an appropriate occupancy rate to include in the cap rate underwriting? That's a great question. So, Cesar, it is hard for me to say exactly what it's going to be, because I don't know if you're in the middle of the Nevada desert or if you're in downtown New York City, right? So that one, there's a lot of, and I say that like that as an example. There's a lot of information that I would have to have in order to accurately give you what the potential occupancy rate is. That being said, we had a company on here not too long ago, Nate Smoyer and I, in our commercial real estate tech segment called Neighbor, and they probably will be able to give you a pretty good and accurate count on what you can rent for and what your occupancy rate will be. Neighbor actually does a lot of that. And so when we're looking at doing industrial outdoor storage, we're probably going to be using Neighbor to help us through that process. They also have an online system to where people can just sign up and rent from you. So I believe. So it makes it pretty easy. So I would check out Neighbor. That'll help you really get an idea of where to look, because there's not really a good spot otherwise that I have found for you to find iOS comps. I mean, you can find sales comps, sure, but pricing is a little bit different. Oh, let's see. John is saying good morning from New Orleans. Good morning, John. Hope everything is great down in NOLA. Jorge, thank you. That helps. I knew you could help. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Anytime, Jorge. Brianne, what's going on? Hey, Tyler. Good to see you in here, Brianne. Jeff is saying easier to find investors at this point than it is a bank to work with. LOL. Yeah, man, it is painful out there. I'll tell you what. I have investors kicking down my door. I mean, I've had some texting me last week asking to get into an investment. And here's the problem. I can find the investments and I can raise all cash to do these projects. But the problem is that doesn't really give us the returns that all the investors are wanting to see. The problem is the debt terms just don't make any sense for the most part. Now, to be fair, I'm not BlackRock. I don't get to enjoy cheaper debt and equity than any of you or I will ever experience in our lifetimes. So there's that. That being said, are deals getting done? Absolutely. You just have to continue kicking down doors at banks and talking to people. I mean, Jeff and I have talked to so many lenders at this point for a deal down in Texas, and it's tough even just getting term sheets. So yeah, I mean, hey, if you have solved the lending issue out there, I would love to know what you are doing. Brandon is saying, I love CRE Central since I joined last month. Oh, awesome, Brandon. I appreciate that. Everyone on here should join like yesterday. That's awesome. That's our CRE Accelerator program. She's a realtor, I believe out west. Question, my hubby has a roofing company and I want a podcast studio. So we were looking for a 6,000 to 10,000 square foot flex space in Denver with ideally, out west, 2 other tenant leases in place. What do you recommend for the owner-occupied financing? Do they have 15% down loans? Brian, I think that's a great idea because so I love owner-occupied commercial real estate. I call it commercial house hacking. You can legitimately house hack commercial real estate if you do it this way. And let's be honest, as investors, we are all, we all have a business. Now you got to justify the rental expenses and make sure that it works. So, Brian, yes. You can actually probably find an SBA loan where you only have to put down about 10%. Banks right now are frothing at the mouths for owner-occupied commercial real estate because they don't have the same regulatory requirements on owner-occupied as they do investments, and they're just more secure investments, right? I mean, if you are buying a building and you're moving your business in there, you don't have to hope that the right tenant's going to come along to pay the mortgage. They know that you're going to be able to do it with your business. So I would go shop around 3-5 banks and see what your options are with a traditional loan as well as an SBA loan, because some banks get really, really aggressive just on owner occupied, but sometimes you need to go the SBA route. Now, SBA, you're going to be paying higher interest rates for sure. And oh my gosh, it is a pain to qualify for those deals. However, they can be phenomenal loans once you kind of get past all of that. So yes, 10 to 15% is absolutely doable when it comes to owner occupied. Typically, you have to occupy at least 51% of the total space. So what I usually recommend my clients do if they are going to go out and buy in commercial house hack, if you need 5,000 feet, go buy 9,999 square feet, because then your business can occupy 51%. You can, or buy 10,000 feet and you occupy 5,100, right? We'll make it easy math. And then the rest you can rent out to a tenant that hopefully covers your mortgage. And so your business gets to live there rent free. So there you have it. Rian's saying, sweet. Meeting a commercial broker at a space today. What questions should I ask? Okay. So this is a good one. Why are they selling? What do you think about this area? What would it rent for? Why hasn't it sold yet? What are your thoughts on the space? Now, I would keep in mind the broker is obviously the seller's broker. So they're going to inherently be biased in the way that they're responding to you. But here's what I would say, Brian. Go on a fact-finding mission. Ask a ridiculous amount of questions. Ask all the questions. If you see something in the corner over there, say, what's going on with that, right? Ask every question that comes to mind, because the more knowledge you have, the more leverage you will have in the negotiations to get the deal that you want, or the more that you'll understand about what the seller is actually trying to accomplish, and then you may be able to negotiate a better deal for the two of you than you would have otherwise. So, for example, you find out, the seller, he's just getting older. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore. But he doesn't want any more commercial properties, but he doesn't want to pay taxes. Well, let's talk about 90% seller financing or 95% seller financing. He won't have to pay, capital gains tax on it today. We'll make, he'll get monthly payments for the next 5 years, so he doesn't have to worry about it. If you ever default, he can foreclose on it. There's a lot of benefits in doing that. So hope that helps, Brian. Let me know how it goes. I want to know. Gee, I have a lead with 6+ acres of raw land in Northeast Nashville, zoned residential. How do I go about the possibility of rezoning to, let's say, commercial for retail or even industrial? So, the first thing that you should do is double check to see what the zoning is of the properties around it. Typically, when you're looking at land, you want to make sure that there is a precedent. If you are surrounded by residential, it's going to be very tough to rezone it to anything else. If you're surrounded by commercial, then you have a pretty good case for saying, well, this land, doesn't really conform to what's going on here anymore. The other thing that you could do first, right off the bat, without spending a dollar, go talk to the alderman or the councilman and ask them what their thoughts are on rezoning that piece of property, what its highest and best use is, et cetera, because you're going to have their support. You don't have to have it, but you really need it as you're going through that process. And they'll be able to direct you as to how to properly accomplish that, what the neighborhood might want. They'll be the ones running or helping to run the neighborhood meetings as you are going through that rezoning process. So very important to have them on your side. So that's how I typically check just for the possibility, is like, what is around the site and what does the councilman or alderman think? Then from there, I'll typically look into planning and zoning, figure out, what do they think that this should be? What are some of the obstacles I may have to figure out how to overcome, et cetera. Evan, what option? Partner with someone who will help fund a deal for a fee, leaving me with a majority of the equity, or partner with experienced investor, but I'd be giving up a larger chunk when building flex. To me, it's a no-brainer on the latter. I would pick a partner with an experienced investor and give up a larger chunk when it comes to building flex. Here's the thing. I would rather own 10% of a project that just absolutely kicks ass because that partner made sure that it worked and I can learn from them, as opposed to 100% of a project that I got into and lost a bunch of money on because something came up that I hadn't seen or foreseen or dealt with before. And Evan, I'm obviously making some assumptions about whether or not you have done a flex deal before, so feel free to jump in the comments and let me know otherwise. But I'm assuming this might be your first flex development. And I highly recommend against going solo on your first development project unless you have an immense amount of construction experience or you just have a lot of cash, right? Because there are things that will go wrong, and it's the years of experience, the gray hairs that will help overcome some of those issues and could turn a potentially really bad situation into a fine one. So something to keep in mind there. Arwen is saying, I've got 10 acres of vacant industrial land in Quincy, Michigan for sale. Small town, but a bit over an hour from Ann Arbor. I'm struggling with my current realtor. She valued at $270K. We're 6 months in at $100K. How would you vet new agents or any advice on how to sell vacant industrial land? We were talking with a storage builder. How might you recommend targeting buyers like that directly? Arlen, that's a good question. I would have to dive in. I would have to know a little bit more about the area. But 10 acres for $100,000 is very cheap. Even $270,000, your original asking price seems very cheap. But that being said, it depends on the area, depends on where it is. Industrial land can be tricky depending on where it is. If it's not in an area that has strong interstate access or a decent population that could work in a factory or something like that, then it can be very tough for a company to justify relocating there. First thing that I would do is go talk to economic development and figure out if they know any industrial users that are in the area that are looking for that type of space. Second thing I would do, and I know I'm out of time, second thing I would do is call industrial real estate brokers in your area specifically. If you're, it sounds to me like since you use the word realtor, you may be working with a residential agent that says that they can do commercial. I would go find an industrial specific agent that sells zero residential. That is one of the questions that you should actually ask your commercial brokers. Do you sell residential? If they say yes, get up and walk out of that room because that is not a commercial real estate broker. That is all the time that we have for today in this week's episode of Office Hours. If I didn't get around to your question, please drop it in the comments in the YouTube video, and I promise that I will get around to it. Otherwise, I will see y'all next week, Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll answer your questions then. Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more.